O'clock, so we are going to start the November 21st meeting of the Tufton Planning Board. First of all, approval of minutes. Did anybody see anything that needed to be changed?
I did. Did I actually say, I can't remember if I said this.
Page 3?
Page 4, Maureen Hadley noted the existing ordinance hasn't been enforced. Did I say that?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
Well, I listened to the tape.
Did I say it? Yes, I said it.
I would question it if I didn't listen to the tape, but I actually had no choice. I wasn't there at the meeting.
All right. So one correction that I have, which comes up near the top of the first page under considerations of minutes for the previous meeting where we changed purview. It's P-U-R-V-I-E-W.
What did you say?
P-U-R-V-I-E-W, purview. I didn't see anything else. And if she listened to the whole tape and transcribed it,
That's fine.
I'm not gonna, I didn't think I talked that much, but, yeah. All right.
Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay, the motion to accept the minutes with the changes noted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, discussion items, zoning amendments, section 3.6.F13. If everyone remembers, Jack had requested that storage buildings also include outside storage. There was a second page of that where Jack had more explanation, but I also called him and talked to him. He basically felt that there needed to be something to address people to allow outside storage. Most common thing that's stored outside would be, large items that people notice for commercial purposes would be boats. That does happen in the town of Tufton Borough in probably 4 or 5 different places that I can think of. Some, marinas, sometimes they're in sand pits, sometimes they're in fields places.
Sometimes they're in neighborhoods.
Sometimes they're in neighborhoods. Jack, when I talked to Jack, I said, it happens, and does exist in the town of Tufton Borough. There's definitely areas like LKR, Lakefront Residential Zone, where that probably shouldn't, be on the list of permitted, or island would be another, OIC should be not listed. But as I explained to you, some of the board may not be in favor of having outdoor boat storage, be allowed without a variance. In this case, it would be a special exception if you put it in the same, if we added it to storage building or outside storage, they would have to go to the zoning board first and receive a special exception, which they would have to prove that there's no depreciation of property values in the area, increase in traffic, increase in noise, dirt, debris, dust, and it has to be in harmony with neighborhood. I think those are the 5 criteria.
That's for a variance.
That's for a special exception. Special exception is pretty much identical requirements of a variance, except you do not need to prove a hardship on the property. It's basically permitted as long as you can prove those criteria. So what Jack would like is for storage, outdoor storage to be included as a permitted use with a special exception in most of the zones.
Is there something that precipitated that with Jack?
I don't believe so. He didn't mention it. Other than I know that it exists in town and he sees it and he has nowhere to go with it, other than to say.
So he can't enforce something because it doesn't really include outside storage, basically.
Actually, he could.
Okay.
You could issue a cease and desist order on it because it's not listed on the table of uses.
Okay.
So
So when it's not listed,
if it's not listed, it's prohibited.
So,
Most of what I see around me is like single boats, sitting around in a field or something like that.
I don't,
What about more than that?
I think that's what, he's intending. It would be like if I said, all right, I'm gonna take 50 boats and shrink wrap them and put them in,
Your yard.
my yard, or
Yeah,
at Spiderweb Gardens, I'm gonna take the field at
Yeah.
Spiderweb Gardens, I'm gonna put 50 boats, and I'm gonna pay Bill $100 per boat to park them there. Jack would like somebody to go, and that happens in town of Tufton.
It does.
I mean, there's people who rent out their sand pits, whatnot. So Jack would like that to be permitted by special exception, meaning that you could go and have that use permitted on the property, provided you could prove the criteria is required for special exception.
And if you didn't do it, then,
You can't do it.
then you can't do it, so, but is that enforced?
It's enforceable.
Is
If
it
it's-
enforced right now? No.
No,
That's just for commercial use?
no. It's not for commercial use.
It's
It's supposed to be?
to rent, I mean, when you rent out your property for a mass of, whether they're boats, cars, equipment, and
That's
you receive
commercial use.
payment for
That's
it,
commercial use.
that's commercial.
But if
But
you
right
have-
now, that's not how it's.
you know, my biggest concern is neighborhoods, okay? Sand pit typically is out, there's not people around it typically, sometimes there is, but, but in a neighborhood where somebody starts bringing in boats, starts servicing boats, and then next thing you know, behind the house goes 5 boats, 6 boats, 7, 8 boats.
I know.
So-
Okay.
Yeah.
So having to go to ZBA to get an exception provides a way to control that,
I agree with that, so.
right?
When I
So,
look at what Jack's asking for, it sounds pretty logical
yeah,
so I just don't, but I don't understand what's the limit or the minimum. I
Yeah.
mean, how's it done?
Oh,
I mean, I see it, and I see that this guy does like 7, 8 boats in a store in the backyard, and he's obviously not doing it for free. He wouldn't shrink wrap them, stick them in your backyard. He'd be working in your driveway on them daily, okay? And you're creating a business going on, business environment,
it
things
would
coming in
seem
and out.
to me
so-
that this is an issue to engage counsel on in terms of
I would.
wording of the proposed change.
Yeah,
So-
because there's a.
So that we fully address all of these issues. So if I shrink wrap my boat and put it in the yard, I mean, clearly that's not
Yeah,
what this is.
it's personal.
So
No, and
if I put 2 boats in the yard, is that an issue? If I put 3 boats,
it's
There
only
may
when
be
you get
a way-
paid for it though, that it becomes commercial.
But how do you know
I
that
think
he's
that's
getting
what
paid?
Matt's
Is-
talking
well,
about.
right, that, so that becomes a challenge is, how do you know when it's commercial,
Yeah, just
right?
keep his boat
How
there.
do you know it's
Yeah,
commercial?
That's true.
You
Don't know.
some guy comes by and plays you a little cash in your hand to put his boat in the back. I mean, that's, you put 12 boats back there, it's fairly obvious. At any rate, these are all things as we look at a change to the zoning that it would seem to me it's important to have worked through and included wording for.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a big area, well, you're in the boat business, so we are, but we're in an area of lots of boats. We're in an area of lots of cars too, collectors of cars, or, people that have an abundance of cars that they can't even store themselves necessarily, but, and I think you're right, you really,
Well,
the
and
legality of the words of it.
with respect to cars in the town of Tufton Borough, our zoning is more restrictive than lots and lots of towns, because we don't allow unregistered vehicles stored outside. That's not to say that there aren't some, because it hasn't always been enforced, but, and state law allows for that, but zoning in Tufton Road is not. So, you got a car in your yard, It's gotta be registered and inspected. Now, put it inside the building, it doesn't, you know, you can have as many unregistered vehicles indoors as you want, but you can't accumulate unregistered vehicles outside. As I say, that hadn't always been actively enforced. We're working to enforce it better, particularly with some of the egregious properties.
I mean, there's certainly places in town where you can store the cars, boats, equipment, and no one's gonna see them. And it's not hurting anyone, and it's not detracting from the property values. Usually it happens in cities.
Right.
When I was doing real estate all the, you know, more actively, I had a listing on Ledge Hill Road, and I had it this close all the time, and then they turned their head, and there was a neighbor, and they just had way too many boats in their yard.
I can probably guess which one.
I can too.
And I felt
What's
so
the
bad.
address again?
I felt bad
You know how to tell
for
us
my
the
client,
address,
but what are you gonna
The
do?
listing you have is a beautiful house.
I-
Beautiful piece of
awesome.
property, Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
You know,
Fence,
and
big
that,
fence.
and that's always the danger, you know. All right, well, we're gonna have the lawyers here doing something anyway, so let's, we'll bounce that off and see what they have. Next up is short-term rentals. So Gary is going to talk to DTC and set up that seminar. We should probably invite, this is a pretty hot topic.
On the zoning board?
Zoning board and the board of selectmen
Mm.
and any other board, or Jack. I'm sure Jack actually mentioned that he would already attend that, because we're gonna be running into that constantly and more.
Now, I will tell you on the short-term rentals, I was in a couple of sessions at the Municipal Association Conference where there was some discussion on this. I also participated in the Municipal Association's webinar yesterday on it. Some towns have a procedure in place today. A lot of towns are looking at it. And some of the things that I know now that I didn't know before is that short-term rental is commercial. Okay, so that means that in terms of life safety, the life safety requirements in a residence for short-term rental are more
Strict.
Stringent.
onerous than they are in your regular house. Been talking with Chief Thompson. He, you know, there isn't any currently organized approach to verifying that, because we don't know a lot of times where this is going on. The only time you find it is if you get called in and see the situation. So you know, life safety considerations, I think, are a factor in the whole process. If you go through this presentation, you get a sense for some of the stuff that was touched on. And I also sent along to Leanne a link to the video of the webinar, so you get to, so it's about an hour long. You get to listen to all of the presentation, and there were also questions that they dealt with a little bit. You know, there are a number of approaches to take. I don't know if we have anything specifically in our zoning that talks about short-term rental.
It has, under the table of uses, there is a section that says, I may not get it exactly, bed and breakfast, something, vacation homes.
What I
I
discussed.
think it's in the minute,
Yeah.
it's in the minutes.
What
we
I
talked about
discussed
it.
on the last meeting,
What? I mean, it's, the way I read it is vacation home, which I don't know what else a short-term rental would be, is a permitted use in some of the zones and is not permitted in some, and a special exception in others. Did you find it?
It's
I'm
less
trying to
than,
find
less
what
than
it's
8,
under.
no, less than
Which
8.
section
Well, that's
is
what we
it?
said in minutes.
It'll be,
Yeah. it's
Zoning,
less.
yeah, zoning ordinance includes, these are different versions, bed and breakfast inns, lodging houses, and tourist homes not exceeding 8 guest rooms are, is considered a use in the town of Tuftonboro. I don't know what else you would call a tourist home other than a vacation rental. So, there is that. Keep in mind, this was written in probably 1986.
Right.
So, have cottages been rented in the town of Tuftonboro for a couple of hundred years? Absolutely. Is it not a problem 99% of the time? Absolutely. Does that exist in the zoning right there? Absolutely. So,
Which means any change in the zoning affects anything from now going forward. So, which, it just is what it is. I mean, it doesn't mean that, it means you can't wholesale change how things have been done if they've been done that way under under the rules. If people have been complying with the rules right along and you change the rules, then if they've been in compliance, they're grandfathered to that prior.
you just said that one of the things you learned was that it is in fact considered commercial. Is that right?
Yeah.
What if you have a community, my brain, hello, an agreement,
Covenants?
yeah, covenants.
Neighborhood
What if you have-
association?
Yes, what if you have
Well,
covenants
that's-
against commercial?
That's not our purview. I mean,
No, but I mean, if there is a neighborhood association that's having a problem with that,
Mhm.
and if the issue is they think it's commercial, but up until now, I don't think it hasn't been public, shall we say,
Mhm.
that doing that is considered commercial. Would that then be something that they could take back to their board?
I think they need to engage counsel on that.
Ah,
Okay?
I would.
It's, again, and we get into this time and again, if you have a neighborhood association that has restrictive rules for your neighborhood that are different than town zoning, that's the neighborhood's business. If there are covenants that are attached to the deeds, and generally they are, then those property owners have to comply with them. But enforcement is not through the town. Enforcement is through the court system. And, pursuit of remedy
Yeah.
along these things, I think is, gotta engage counsel and deal with it that way. Now, the governing body can establish a business license for short-term rentals, for all rentals, which means that they would have to, everybody that does that in town would have to get a business license, just like a commercial enterprise does. I'm not suggesting that we go there, but that is a way of identifying all of the properties that are engaged in these types of activities and providing the right contact information, opportunity to verify that life safety is as it should be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
The state has a regulation, rules of meals tax.
Mhm.
So if you were to rent your house more than 2 weeks, you're required to pay rooms and meals tax above that.
Mhm.
To pay rooms and meals tax, you have to get a license with a number, identification number,
Mhm.
which permits you to pay the state the rooms and meals tax.
Mhm.
So
That's from the state.
That's
right?
from the state, yes.
Yep.
The state of
Yep.
New Hampshire, yes.
Yep,
That's statewide.
yep. And
In our-
this would be a town license to
Right,
the
yeah,
individual.
what you're talking about is
Yeah.
different, but
I don't think it's a bad approach to have it licensed. I mean, clearly it has to exist because the economy of Tuftonboro would collapse without it.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's an unfair burden to say, listen, if you want to rent your house or your cottage, you are going to get a permit from the town to do that, in which you list your contact information, you know, and you're gonna get an inspection by fire department, codes, I don't know, whoever it is, just to make sure it's safe. And if there's a problem, we know who to call and who's
Mhm.
responsible and such and so forth. And we're gonna charge you for it.
Right.
So,
I don't see a problem with
I
that.
don't either.
I
I think
don't,
it's actually a piece.
It's protecting the tenant and it's protecting us, so.
I
And the
think,
owner of the
I
house
think if I,
protects.
you know, if I ran a rental agency, you know, Maxfield or whatever, I would be like, great.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
And you said for the rentals that you do, you know, part of what you do is you eyeball those properties to make sure that all
I
those things
personally
are
do,
covered.
yeah, right.
And, which is the piece that's missing when you have the Ethernet rental. the
Yeah,
internet.
Airbnb, right.
You know, you got somebody in Mountain View, California, sitting at a computer that's doing all the details on this. 2,500 miles removed from the local conditions. And if all you're doing is financial transaction, which is pretty much what they're doing,
That's basically. right.
that's fine for that. But the other piece is when there's an issue, when there's a problem, when somebody needs to get hold of somebody on the property, or there's a renter issue, you're not, the opportunity to quickly get in touch with somebody that can, will do something is pretty limited.
Well, I think in the emergency services, from their perspective, it's a very good thing, you know, because they probably on average have more calls to a rental house than whether it's police or fire or whatever. And if it's all there, everything they need to know for information is there, they don't have to spend
Yep.
time tracking people down. So,
Yep. And I am aware, I mean, I do know that there are some people in town that already are engaged in comply. For instance, somebody that recently purchased a property to turn into a B&B, got a hold of Chief Thompson, had him come through and do an inspection just to make sure they met all the, you know, the current code for the rentals.
Do you need
which-
to have fire?
Hmm?
Do you need to have sprinklers for a B&B in Tuftonboro?
No.
In this town,
But-
you know.
No, but you do have to have hardwired smoke detectors. And that's the biggest shortcoming, because, you know, newer residential properties, I think they're pretty much all hardwired anyway,
Right.
but it's pretty standard. But when you have a place, particularly a lot of these old camps along the lake, if they have smoke detectors, it's a battery-powered one, you know, so, and the fire code is very specific about where, and the fact that they have to be hardwired, and that's an example of the life safety stuff that is part of the code for,
That's a very restrictive, the hardwired and placement of the smoke detectors. The codes have been upgraded in the last 4, 5, 10 years. I just went through it with my house. Every bedroom has to have one.
Yeah.
And plus, outside the bedrooms, I mean, it's little, but it's protective, I mean, that's what you have to do. I mean, just to reiterate that, I keep contact information from my owners on
Right.
file. And the emergency arises, I'm the one who gets called.
right.
And then I go to the, well, it depends, I can handle it myself or I can.
Well, that's why they pay you the big bucks, because you
Exactly,
provide
Tony.
that
Well, no, but
service.
that's the way Chip always wanted it, and that's how I came on board, and that's what I've been doing for all these years, but
Sure.
not only that, I sleep well at night.
So if you look at some of the stuff in this presentation, you flip in to,
That's what Leanne's house, right?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I looked at that
Right.
too, yeah.
Right, So, Nate went on Airbnb's website, and there were 45,300 rentals between Memorial Day and Labor Day this year in Carroll County.
How many?
45,300. In Hillsborough County, which is a much bigger county, population-wise, there were 9,100. So that's
Who
1/5.
compiled this data?
Huh? This is the Municipal Association.
Municipal Association.
Nate Gray's the Municipal Services Council.
Okay, so
Put that
they got
together.
it from the state, most likely.
He got that from the Airbnb website.
Oh,
This is just
okay,
Airbnb,
website.
not
Jeez.
other guys.
On vacation.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The town of Jackson, 999 housing units, okay? 100 of them are listed on Airbnb. 10% of the,
Didn't they say, was it 10% or 20% of the town?
10% of the town.
10% of the total housing stock is listed as short-term rentals. And the reason, of course, is, again, Jackson's an area that's a vacation destination, and, you know, your cash flow, your revenue stream is higher when you do that than renting to somebody as a regular tenant.
Right.
Now, you're not always 100% occupied, but some seasons you can be. Anyway, there's good information there, good food for thought. Whatever we do needs to be done in a purposeful manner moving forward, with plenty of opportunity for folks in town to be engaged in the process.
I noticed that one of the things that they mentioned there, the towns can do is to be careful about definitions. That lots of times they're kind of blurry, and they haven't been written for this time, and that's something that one can think about.
Mhm.
And also, they seem to think that it was the zoning
Right.
that is the important thing to look at. I mean, if there's a change to be made,
Mhm.
so.
Does the chief, Thompson, does he track, or is he able to track emergencies, let's say through the summertime? What's the ratio of rental type people or summer people versus our normal town?
Well,
Is it,
I know
they
they
keep,
keep
but-
they keep good records on all their calls.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, do we find more problems with the rental type stuff?
He could probably extract relatively good data on rentals versus non-rental. And again, as we talked last time, the short-term rental is a different dynamic than somebody that rents the house for a year. Moves in with the dog, cat, all their stuff, this is where they're living.
They're sensitive to the neighborhood.
Well,
No,
yeah,
I
but-
don't think so. I think it's actually,
Well,
maybe the other way.
No.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's easy to do.
I don't like
short-term
stress
rentals.
based on that.
Way easier.
It's just a different dynamic, okay? I mean, you know, you've got, when you do a regular rental, you've got good renters, you've got not good
Horrible
renters,
renters.
okay? And we all wanna have that good renter, and when he's there, we want him to keep renewing year after year after year and not moving on. But the short-term guy, I mean, that's essentially using it like a hotel. You know, he's there for a week
And they
or a
pay a
few
lot of money
days.
though.
Hmm?
A lot of times they pay a lot of money and it's their family vacation.
It
I mean,
is their vacation, that's right.
You know, and they wanna take care of it. 99% of the time they do.
I think there's a distinction between the guy who's renting a lakefront house
Mhm.
at $5,000 a week
Absolutely.
and the guy who's renting a, off the water, house for a night, on Airbnb,
Mhm.
just like a cheap hotel. I mean,
Right.
a family that's coming in, coming up here from vacation, $4,000 house, $3,000 boat rental, going out to eat 5 to 7 nights per week, and,
Yeah.
There is, but it's not necessary. Through what I've been involved with in the past, I found big-time rental people, some of them pretty bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
You
true,
know, you get,
it's true.
But you usually have a huge security deposit for that,
We do.
I mean.
well, it's not just the security deposit, it's other things that come into play, into the house, into the property, into the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, you can't control
So-
everything, but you have to just No,
So it's a hard thing.
it is.
It is, it's risky, and you're always taking a chance, but references don't count sometimes, but you try to do your best. But you're right, Gary's right, they pay big bucks, and
And they
it
can
can be
be
just as bad as the people
dealing drugs in
paying.
there. I mean, it can be, you know.
So, well, I will talk to DDC.
Yeah, I'm sure they've been all over this.
Next week I'll be on the phone with them, I'll give them some examples, things to talk about. We'll talk and we'll see when we can arrange this to have them come in.
Yep.
I mean, everybody's talking about it, all the towns that seem to be addressing it. This Airbnb is kinda just brought it to a head,
Well,
I suppose.
I sent you an article on the Airbnb, I
Yep.
think. In that article, I have to find it, but it's a really good article, what Airbnb's doing right now. So you can understand what they're doing. All right, and once you understand what they're doing, then a lot of your questions will probably be answered. And then you'll have just another group of questions that aren't answered yet or concerns, but,
Well, and they're reacting to issues in the marketplace, and I haven't seen this article, but I know that they're doing some things to try and deal with issues that have come up. You know, they've got a good business, you don't wanna
yeah.
have it.
They're verifying every one of their customers right now.
Yeah, they don't wanna have it go down the tubes because of the bad actors. And the bad actors are the ones that get all of the media attention and everybody hears about. And, you know, if you got a place near you that's got Airbnb people in it on an ongoing basis, and none of them are ever a problem, you may not even know they're there. But you get the party house that comes in.
You know, if they.
My daughter just got denied. She was trying to do an Airbnb in Manhattan for her birthday in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And I said, it says right on it that it's 25 years old, you're gonna be 23. She's not gonna do it. She'll never know. She'll never know, I'm just gonna do it. I said, go ahead. She texted me today, you were right, she denied it. I said, well, she probably got your name, looked you up on Facebook, saw when you
Or
graduated
whatever.
from college. I'm like, people can find things.
Right.
So she was denied. I said, and she goes, well, could you do it for me? I said, absolutely not. No way.
Right.
You'd be like, no way.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
so,
So people do check. I mean, they do. If they care about their house, they do.
I'm
Right,
assuming
and there's
that
a
most
reason.
of what we've got around here is gonna be seasonal, so what do
There's a
those
lot,
houses
there's a
do?
lot of Airbnb in Wolfboro.
What do those
Talking
houses
about-
do in the rest of the year? Do they just sit empty?
Well, not necessarily, Airbnb doesn't necessarily mean waterfront properties, it's often,
Oh, yeah.
just,
We
it's
have
all
that.
over, it's off the water. My sister visited me last year, she rented an Airbnb right in Wolfboro Main Street, it's off the water.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they
Well,
I said it was a
sure,
nice
that's-
room,
That's
too.
what I'm saying, are they rented all year round?
Yes.
So
All
my
the time?
in-laws
People-
Absolutely.
rented a place in Moulton Borough for a week for Christmas. So
Oh.
my daughter's, in-laws are coming up for the holiday for 8 days, and they rented it, and so that's an Airbnb that they did.
right.
So people do
You know, there's a lot of
Yeah.
people buying homes, residential homes,
Just
Well,
to
that's
do
what
this.
I heard.
to go into
That's what I've
Airbnb
heard.
and rent it and pay it down that
Yeah.
way or however,
Well, it's a way to make money. I mean, it's,
till the market goes to.
Yeah, yep.
but then you rent to the person full-time that wants to come in
You try,
and do it.
yeah.
Well, you try.
Well, I don't know if you've followed any in the news, but I see the Conway Sun and the reval up there, the short-term rentals have really jacked up the values of a lot of houses right in town in North Conway.
Yeah, I read that.
And, so people are having sticker shock when they get their tax bills because the value of their property is substantially higher. And it's not a vacation piece of property or anything, it's just
People
the
want to be in
short-term
the
rentals.
in-town location.
The short-term rental market is strong, and, which means that you got people owning places that are making money, renting them out, short-term rental, and other people are willing to pay more to buy it because they know that they can get that kind of revenue out of it. And, so, things run in cycles.
Good discussion.
Yeah, well, there'll be plenty more, because that is not going away.
Right.
So we've got to figure out some well-written, well-backed up zoning that reflects the town's history of renting things, and peace and serenity and such and so forth. So that'll take a little while to figure out. Steve Hunter, site plan review compliance, we talked about it briefly before the meeting, but I did talk to Jack, and Jack is going down the path with that. He's referred it to council. Council's on vacation, will be back. So. Oh, sorry, planning board membership, I forgot that. So we have 2 new members coming up. Everyone's agreed to join us, I understand. And Gary has started training, or finished.
Done training.
Yeah, all right.
Orientation. They train themselves.
And the Board of Selectmen are going to be reviewing the request on Monday, so the
Okay.
appointments should come thereafter.
All right, yeah, that was my question. You're gonna send it over to
I already did last week.
Karen?
Yeah,
Great.
Karen has it, she's done it.
And wait, we're not done yet, because over on the far side of the room,
Uh-huh, yet another person.
yes, I got another. Jerry Vaughn has been a customer of mine for
Many moons.
many, many moons. Jerry has moved to New Hampshire full-time, former New Jersey city councilman.
Correct.
Long illustrious business career, and he is also interested in joining the planning board as an alternate.
Great. Thank you for having me tonight.
Pleasure.
So Jerry, if you, after this meeting, decide that this has been a great experience.
Good
We
day.
have- we
Good
have-
way to spend a Thursday night
Yeah,
anyway.
we have an orientation that Gary goes through with everyone, and it's very thorough, and gives you the overview, gives you all the reading material and everything. And after that, if you would still like to be such and so forth, the board decides whether to recommend you to the selectmen. Which should be great, because now, if one of us is sick, they don't have to show up. I mean, she's shown up half dead before from the cold.
Only half. Only half.
Only
Yes.
half. So that's a wonderful thing. So, planning board fee schedule, we talked about this, and
Different ones.
I had to go before the budget committee, which was an interesting experience, and go over our town budget, and one of the things they had brought up was, why the planning and zoning department costs so much money. But I said, there's things we can do. We can also look at, as mentioned, we were talking about this, our fee schedule. And Leanne has very thoroughly put together some examples. And I don't think it's crazy for our site plan review process to have fees, or a fee.
Yeah.
And we could look at this and analyze it all day long, but let's just come up with a couple of numbers for like a minor and a major, and put it into work.
Do we
So-
have one at present?
We do.
No, where's our fee schedule?
Let's take a look.
I can't wait to change it. I'll go over the easy one, subdivision. $50 it's $50 for the first lot. Each additional lot is $10.
How much?
$10 each lot, additional. Our notice fee is $100, we just increased that last year from 15 to 100, so that's sufficient. And then $5 for each abutter. So far, that's sufficient as well. That's dependent on postage. When it starts to get over 5, then we'll have to reassess that, but we're good right now. It's like 4 something, low 4. Site plan review, this is the one that I cannot wait to change. $50 for the first 50,000 of construction costs. An additional $1 for each $1,000 of construction costs over 50,000, but with a maximum of $500 to be assessed. And then the notice fee for 100 and the abutter is $5 each, so. And then the lot merger, there's no fee to submit anything, and the boundary line adjustment is the same as the subdivision, and we have nothing for condominium conversion.
Well, the no fee ones
No,
could
we
be
should,
the easy ones
we
that.
should.
So, yeah, I would love to simplify, I would love it if the board simplified the site plan review.
Why don't we simplify it right now?
Okay.
And there are a couple in your packet that were much more simplified.
Was there one you liked?
Oh, of course you would ask me that. Well, hold on. I don't think I should answer that.
Ah, here we go, Town of Wolfboro?
Yeah, I
No, I didn't say that one. There was a different one that I liked, actually. Actually, I don't even know which town that is.
Yeah,
So Center Harbor's, in my opinion, Center Harbor,
Center Harbor's pretty
way low, too
Yeah.
low.
Oh, yeah.
I think they need to reassess.
What is the structure do? I mean, is it simple?
No, I think it's too
Just-
simple. I think it's too simple. I do like, we talked about minor versus major subdivisions. So what I do like is, trying to find it. For instance, the town, who is this? I don't know. Of course, they don't have them on, this one that has the highlighted yellow, it's towards the back, the middle. It says subdivision over 3 lots, 150 a lot, 3 or less lots, $300.
This must be this one here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at-
Oh, yeah, mine has a
Oh,
yellow.
I guess there is.
So, and I'm not
Okay.
saying I like the numbers, what I'm saying is I like how there's a minor and a major.
All right, so for a subdivision, what would we consider a minor? 3 lots or less, since that would fall under the 3 lots off of one driveway, you know, you're not dealing with roads, you're not dealing with, you know, such and so forth. And anything over 3 lots, you're gonna be dealing with roads, you're gonna be dealing with,
We're talking subdivision. you're talking
yeah,
about.
you're gonna have to look at
So
all.
we're at $50 right now, right?
Where?
We are at $50 for the first lot and $10 each additional lot.
Right.
So,
So the one you have highlighting on, what town is that from?
you know,
Is it Laconia?
it's not
No,
listed
Laconia's
on
on
the
the
thing.
front.
Hold on a
No,
second.
Yeah,
Oh.
because 3 or less lots at 300 is.
Maybe
big time
Meredith?
difference.
I know you said you got Meredith. It
Yeah,
is.
I've gotta go back in my email. I apologize.
Mine is Wolfboro. This
Yeah.
one is, I don't know what
Was
this one is.
Guilford?
Okay, so let's see.
Well, now you know
Okay.
that one?
Guilford.
No, Guilford has
Yes,
it
Center
at the
Harbor.
top.
You've got Laconia, so you're just missing 2 here that are not.
So it looks like it might be, not Ossipee.
Wolfboro's the last one, so.
I mean, if it was,
Meredith, maybe?
if I was writing this like a service menu at work, where we just try to keep it simple.
Meredith, yeah.
I would do subdivision, minor, 3 lots or less, just because it, again, doesn't involve roads, $195. Major, flat fee, $395.
Why 95?
Because I'm used to sales, where you try to make it sound less than it really
Exactly.
is, so.
99.99?
Yeah.
You could make it 240
Well,
if you
Town of
want.
Guilford's 150, okay,
For what?
subdivision,
Subdivision.
Penny?
okay. You get what Center Harbor says.
Yes, I know, it's bad.
Then you've got subdivision on this
Mer-
other guy here, 3 lots or over is 150 a lot,
Yeah.
okay? Each lot, and it's over 3 lots, I'm sorry, 150. Those are under.
I do think that it should be a per lot. I think
More per
I think
lot.
a major should be so much per lot. So if you
Which is-
decide
which is
$50
what
a
Meredith
lot,
does.
$100 a lot,
So 100.
it's cleaner.
So
what
100.
Meredith says here is 3 lots or less is a flat $300.
Meredith.
Over 3 lots is 150 a lot, is
A
what
lot,
they,
yeah, that's what
is
it
what they
said,
do.
right.
So then, the larger the subdivision, the higher the charge.
We could do 190, 3 lots or less, $195, or, sorry. 3 lots or less, $200,
Thank you.
and then $100 per lot over 3.
So 4 lots and above,
So
100 each additional lot.
So if you had a 10 lot subdivision, you'd have 200 plus 7, you'd have $900. Versus currently it would be
$10 for, so 50 for a what lot
10
subdivision?
lot subdivision.
So 10 lot would be $90 plus $50, 100.
Wolfboro's on a 2-lot subdivision.
Yeah, $50 for the first lot and then $10 for each additional.
So right now, if you did a 10 lot subdivision, all the work and all the expense the town has, you would collect $90.
Mhm.
If we changed it to $200 for the first 3 lots and $100 per lot thereafter, you would be at $900.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, reasonable.
And the guy who's doing a 10 lot subdivision doesn't care about a $900.
Right. Well, one of the things, take a look at what, I'm just looking at the Meredith one. So, the difference in approach from what you've done is that over 3 lots, every lot is 150, okay? You're saying the first 3 lots is 200, and then the additional ones beyond that. I guess my thought is, just, if you got more than 3 lots, it's $100 a lot. So then you pay $1,000.
I'm fine with
It's just, then you don't get into higher arithmetic, trying to add all this stuff up,
And the
it's
last-
just cleaner, yeah.
So
Wait a
you
minute, so
start
what?
with the 3 or less lots, which they have in the second position here,
Yes,
so it's a little
right.
confusing.
Right,
Yeah, start with the 3 or less at
3 lot
300.
lots, they're at $300.
they're at 300, you're suggesting
And
200.
then go
which-
beyond that 100 per.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're,
it. It's a vast improvement. in
yes,
the way you
right,
do it.
Yeah.
right.
I think 200's fair.
So,
All right, so how would you like it written?
so,
3 lots.
what,
Start with
what I would, well, what's down on this one is over 3 lots, so much per lot, and you're saying $100 a lot, okay? 3 lots or less, they have a flat fee, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
Of $200.
And you would
They
save
give them a break.
$200. I think that's, to me, it's less confusing, okay? If I got 3 lot subdivision, it's $200. If I got a 4 lot subdivision, it's $100 a lot, so it's $400,
I'm fine with that.
you know?
Oh, I see what
Oh,
you're
not
saying.
an additional
Oh,
lot.
That's
Right.
not an
No.
additional one, I see.
So,
Right.
so
Right.
200 for a
So s-
minor, which would be 3 lots or less,
Right,
or a major, which is 4 lots, is $100 per lot.
right.
Do you like that, Leanne?
That's fine.
Does everyone like that?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Can I have a motion to adopt?
What,
No.
we're not done yet.
I'm not done,
No.
she's got
All right.
more.
So,
Sorry, we're not done.
let me,
No, I was just thinking about that one.
All right,
So-
let me-
Well, I want to
let
do
me
the whole
just-
subdivision package.
let me just ask
We're on 21 motions.
procedurally, because I'm not familiar with how the planning board does it. But I can tell you that the governing body, if we're gonna change a fee schedule, it's something that we draft and we notice and we have
A public hearing
public
on?
hearing on
Okay.
before we
We can do
adopt
that.
it. And I suspect that that would be true in this situation too, that we put together what we are proposing, and then you give the public a chance to come in and make comments on it.
I have no problem with that.
So
Okay, so let me get that
it's
up.
just everything is above board and transparent that way, and if what we're trying to do is way out of whack with what the town thinks, we have a hearing, we have 75 people show up to say this is way too much money, then say,
They go
okay,
back
well,
where it was.
we say, all right, we'll adjust. So, anyway, so I guess my thought is that we put together all of this stuff and we get it down on paper and say, this is what we're gonna propose, here's what it was, and here's what it's gonna be, and then go through the notice and hearing thing.
That's fine. So, before we get going, so does everyone like the 200 for the first, for a 3 lot subdivision, and anything over that, $100 per lot? And we all see the amount of work that goes into these
Yep.
expenses the town incurs, so what else was on the fee schedule that you want to do over?
Well, we don't have an application fee, and I think it's important to institute an application fee, because that will basically cover my time to process the application from start to finish before it even gets to the board.
$125?
So So, 100, 125, 150, whatever.
I think 150.
I mean, they range between, you know, anywhere between 75, I think, and 100 and.
200, yeah.
And 200. So I think it's what you feel is reasonable.
So the application fee is for this, for the subdivision.
Yeah, for a subdivision or boundary line adjustment application. I would also note that I would recommend that condominium conversions be included with this because by law, the state of New Hampshire identifies a condominium conversion as a subdivision of
That's correct.
land, and it's the same amount of work that I have to put in,
Right.
even though it's a conversion. So I think it should be for, I think that but again, we can do that separately.
Should the subdivision, 100 per unit, per lot also include per unit of condominium subdivision?
Right, so if you want to do condominium separate and we just want to do subdivision right now, we can do that and then make a motion and then do condominium conversion if you want, make a motion and then site plan review.
So I'm a little confused, pardon me.
Yeah, that's fine, sorry.
Oh, but we talked about subdivision fees, and then you talked about an application fee. Is that in addition to the subdivision fee? Okay.
The application fee is basically a fee assessed for the amount of time that it takes for me to process the application,
Okay.
from start to finish. Literally from taking the application in to doing the public notice, the butter notices, putting the application together, contacting the applicant if there's missing information. So from the time we get it until 22 days later, when it hits the table, the public hearing, it covers all that time.
On the page right after the one, the Meredith one, each one of the, you can see each one of these subdivision site plan review, each one has a different application fee attached to it. And that to me looks like a good thing to include under each thing that we're doing. Do you see where?
Yeah, I think this one's the cleanest,
Yeah,
the one that you're talking about.
Mhm.
yeah.
I think it.
It's the
it
one
makes
after,
sense.
the one after the one with the highlights, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up.
Is that
That's
Osprey?
a lot cleaner.
I think
The
they
one
are.
with the highlights is Meredith,
Yeah.
just so you
I think
guys.
the next one's
The
awesome.
next one is clearer, I think, for us just to be looking at,
And then
and also the different sections.
That's Ossipee.
Yeah.
For anybody else to be looking at too, to try and find what they're gonna need to be paying.
They even have a postage.
I mean, they do, because
But they only deal with flat fees.
They do.
right? So, well,
they do a per lot period
yeah,
versus, and when you say 3 or less lots, okay, it's, one lot's not really considered a subdivision.
That's,
Right, the
Right.
reason I say 3 or less is because they're almost always just on one driveway. And we're not dealing with any roads, engineering,
Okay, so
they're usually-
typically that 3 or less is gonna be one person coming in from one house, and once in a while you get one that
You
says,
can
hey,
run
we wanna
3
do a
up one,
family
right?
Right.
deal," and
There's
then-
almost.
but beyond that, you've got
Right.
It matches our building and zoning,
to.
Okay.
which
As
is,
soon as you get into 4 lots, then they, well, unless it's already has enough road frontage.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify how we, okay.
As soon as you get into roads, you get into a lot more work.
I agree,
Leanne, do you have a copy of our current schedule?
so the schedule, which I also don't like, is incorporated into our application, which I don't like. I want to prepare a
Right.
separate fee
Right.
schedule once this is all decided upon.
It's just,
Just a fee schedule.
You could just publish a fee, plain
Right.
fee.
And it'll be right on the website, on the left-hand side.
Yep.
It'll say fee schedule, planning board fee schedule. I just want to make it very
Mhm.
clear and easy for everyone to access.
I think what we're talking about here for subdivision is, and I think it should include condo, whether they're in the same or separate section,
Yeah.
I think is fine. I think the amounts are fine. I think on site plan review, minor and major, just like they have listed,
On the Ossipee one.
is that the Ospey one?
Yes, that's the Ossipee.
Minor and major, $200 and $250.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Well, that's what I meant, this one has a distinct application fee for each section.
Yeah, I know, I like that.
And I like that. I think that will be much clearer for anybody going to try and do this.
Question is, difference between minor and major.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We have to write that in.
So,
Yeah, minors, 3
Three
lots
lots
and
or
less, majors,
No,
4
no,
lots.
This is
So-
site, no, this is site.
Oh.
Site plan
Right.
review is the
Right. Minor and
next
major, correct.
Okay, wait a
So-
minute, so can we finish, time out, can we finish subdivision?
I thought we had,
I thought we had.
I don't know what you decided on a flat application fee.
$150.
Okay, I missed that, sorry. So then the public notice remains at 100, and we'll keep the abutter notice at $5. The only thing I want to mention about the condo is you were considering the same, correct? Fee
Right.
schedule from subdivision. I don't want to muddy the waters, but with a subdivision, $200 flat fee, I don't think you need to I don't think you need to be distinctive between a minor and a major condominium conversion, because there are already units that are in place, the construction's taken place, the earthwork has taken place, they're existing, they're just converting. So I think just a flat fee for the condominium, the application fee in addition to a flat fee for the condominium conversion. It's just a thought.
Oh, that's
I-
reasonable.
I think I think you're correct, but just for the sake of simplicity, if they're identical, it's easy figuring.
Okay, so then you change the lot to unit.
Right. And that's the only word you're changing is unit.
Okay.
And it's really simple that way.
Okay.
So site plan review, minor and major, what is the difference between minor and what is the difference between major?
We don't have that right now in our,
Right.
we just have site plan review.
Mhm.
All right?
So I would
So
not
just do
make it
one.
more
What
complicated.
they're saying.
And the square footage thing is,
Yeah, I don't think, I think that Wolfboro has a good way of doing it.
alright,
Wolfboro has first 20,000 square feet of disturbance.
Here's a measure.
Yeah.
And minor, I guess, is under that.
Anything under 20,000 square feet would be minor.
wait, I need
That's
to
a
actually
disturbance.
interject here.
Yeah.
Wolfboro is actually very different. The site plan, when they refer to minor, that's actually not the planning board, it's the technical review committee.
Oh,
So we have a minor commercial site plan review for, that can bypass it streamlines. So instead of having to prepare all these, all these fees and time to go before the planning board, same process, you gotta notify butters, you have to put a public notice in the newspaper, post in 2 public places. But it streamlines, because it's so simple, it's typically just changing a change of use. A minor site plan can include a change of use for an existing business on Main Street downtown. So it's very different. That's actually, because she combined them, the planning board and technical review. So,
well, if you look at the Meredith schedule under site plan review, they have several different things that seem to me to be very straightforward. There's a fee for home occupation, there's a fee for change of use without modification of the site, and then all other ones, there's a fee plus a so much per square foot of disturbance.
That's confusing.
I think we should have an accommodation for home occupation where we bring, Jack brings somebody in
Yep.
and it's their house and they, like the people who have, sell antiques on their front lawn down there. Porsche. $250 seems a little bit steep for somebody who's doing that. On the other hand, when you have a piece of property that is dedicated to whatever use it is, that is a change of use and is commercial, and that site will be developed for that commercial use,
Right,
$250 in the scheme of things is.
right. Again, when I'm looking at Meredith, for a home occupation, they're charging $100, okay? For change of use with no site modification, $125. Then for all other site plans, $150 plus 3 cents a square foot of disturbance. So I'm not saying that their numbers are where ours should be, but the way they break it out, it's very straightforward as to what category applies. If all I want to do is change use on the building that I have, and I don't change anything, this is what it's going to cost me. All I'm going to do is start a home occupation, need that, that's what it's going to cost. To me, that looks pretty straightforward. I don't know, I'm just offering that as,
If you do separate a site plan review from, if you remove home occupation and change of use without site modification as a separate line, I would actually combine those two because the changes are minimal for both. They're both existing buildings that don't require any site modification. So if you're gonna break them out, I would combine them at least, not, I don't know why one's 100 and one's 125.
well, my guess is they figure for home occupation, we'll give people a break, okay? Because they're living there and they're doing, whereas if I take a house and I change the use into a business, I'll be able to afford a little more money, so.
I would just combine them, I mean, just do an and sign in between and have one fee for the two. And then have an application fee, which I think the application fee should remain the same throughout. I think it should be consistent because the application fee, again, is simply my time.
Yeah.
That doesn't change, whether it's a site plan review, subdivision, condo conversion, home occupation. So I think the application fee should remain the same throughout the fee schedule. But then you add, if you're gonna go this route, you can add home occupations and change of use without no site modification as one, and then that's up to you guys, and then,
I think $100 for a home occupation and a no modification, site plan review with no modifications to site is reasonable, and $250 for site plan review with site modifications, for anything else is, I mean, if you're developing a site for a commercial use or anything, you're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range, so.
So you say 250, you're talking about a flat 250 or?
I would do a
or-
flat 250 for a site plan review with site modification.
Right.
Amendments or-
Right. But no adder for size.
Yeah, I think it's so rare anyway in the town of Tuftonboro that,
And amendments, I'm looking at the Meredith one, that they have all of their site plans and amendments, same charge. Do we
Same thing.
typically have amendments?
to amendments to site plans.
Yeah.
we
Because
have,
They
it's
could
not
be,
typical, but we
they
have
could be
had
this,
them.
a single line for, in the same way, yeah?
I'm just trying to
Just
figure out what the
include them in.
threshold of an amendment would be. Like, what's the threshold? Is it a new application?
In Molten Borough,
Or is
it's,
it an amendment of the condition of approval?
and in Molten Borough, it's like 100 square feet for building. That's, anything over that requires an amendment, anything under that requires a letter. But it's, again, it's rare.
It's rare, but when it, I'm not sure how to tackle that one, because if the conditions of approval are actually modified from an original approval,
I think that what we're doing here is such an improvement that in the 5 years, we might do one amendment. And it's,
yeah, the town of Guilford has $200 for an amended site plan.
Why don't we just combine it under
we could do that.
Site
all of the
plans
site
or
plans, you know,
amendments.
just-
Yeah, just call it site plans or amendments, and then it's covered.
Yeah, simple.
Okay, well, no, okay, so what is I'm sorry, what did you say for this regular site plan review? It's
250.
250? Okay, I just wanna throw out a what-if scenario. And I'm not gonna use that camp, but we have about 6 camps in this town, right? 7 camps? You guys have a lot of camps in this
They're
town.
not exempt from fees even as a nonprofit.
I get that, but some of their site plans are fairly massive changes, like
Well, I
large.
know one is.
That's why I'm trying not to. So, and I'm thinking the worst case scenario, they're probably the largest commercial that would make, I mean, what if we need a third party review? Then we would just make them
They're still
pay
responsible.
for it, so, all right, I'm just making sure, I just wanna kind of think it out, just make sure that it's not too low, in my
This
opinion.
particular thing mentions the fee for amendments plus 3 cents a square foot of disturbance of new, I mean, so you could, if it becomes massive and it's a large square footage, they're apparently indicating that that would be how they take care of it.
Right, but the reason why I wanted to get away from, like this one, the construction cost, over
Right.
50,000, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to get away from that language specifically because usually the construction cost estimate, we don't get until after approval. And these are fees up front. So how do we,
I think this is,
so I think
this by
simpler,
itself is such a massive improvement.
you're like, let's just
Very
get
true.
this done.
Yes, very
Yeah.
true.
It's, we could come up with what ifs all night. but
Yes.
We're not likely,
I'm not sure if it'll be back again for a while.
yeah, we won't, you know, we might
Okay.
come up with those every
That
10
probably won't be
years.
the most important thing that
I
happens.
agree with you.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
There is one thing on the Ossipee one that I do like, especially,
Piece the best, actually.
especially given this year and the number of excavation operations that were
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, they are going to require reclamation and coming back to this board to get, the reclamation plan is going to have to be reviewed and approved and by a third-party engineer. So I think, granted it may be 30 years away, 10 years away, I think if you get them in now, you should have, you should just address it. If we're doing this, do it all.
Why not?
Reclamation, that's, you know, that's probably gonna be a site visit by the codes officer. He's gonna have to walk the whole thing.
It's a lot of
Actually,
time.
it's a lot of time.
They've only got $100 for excavation application fee and $210 for public notice, but they don't,
The application fee should be 150 because we established that
Right.
already and all the
Yeah.
others. That's easy.
Right.
So what you're referring to, reclamation review, or?
Yeah, so they're gonna have to submit a reclamation plan not only to the planning board, but that will go to the state as well.
Right.
So even though we've approved the excavation operation, once they decide to finally close the operation, they have to come back for the reclamation process. So it's not site plan review, that was said and done. So
All right.
it's an extenuating circumstance.
Excavation reclamation review,
Sorry.
$295.
There you go.
No.
Are we doing
All right.
300?
Do I hear 300?
No.
$300.
You have site plan review at 250, why not be consistent?
Because the reclamation review is gonna involve more
Gonna be
time
more.
than the site plan, because the codes officers.
Then increase it, 300, 400.
Like,
I don't want 295.
it's a lot of time though.
No, we're
We
not doing
changed, we
295.
changed 295, it's
I
300.
said 300, all right?
I
Or
thought you
probably,
said 295.
He
Okay.
did, he did, I said
Changed
so I
it.
did 300.
Oh,
But then he
okay.
rolled
We
over.
agreed on
He rolled over.
300.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
okay, I like
we've got a
that.
lot of years at 29,995 building.
Well,
you know,
yeah. Okay, so
Buys you a road.
150. And then the notice fee will be the same. Okay,
All right.
Come on, Jen.
anything
Anything
else?
else?
Nope.
How about, should we talk about lot mergers or lot,
Oh, right,
Mergers?
lot mergers. We
Yeah.
just, that is so simple, just an application fee I think should apply.
Okay.
okay.
And that'll cover my time from start to finish. They're very, very simple.
The one thing that the public does know about is lot merger costs, they really do. They know it's free. So,
Did we
a
do
lot of
boundary
people
line
ask me about it. Oh, it's
adjustments?
free. isn't
That's a
it?
subdivision of land.
Do it.
It's
Okay.
included by statute.
Okay.
The last thing I have, I think, is mountain shadow.
Mountain shadows file inspection.
Hold on, stop, I'm sorry.
She's been
I,
waiting.
she's not finished. No, I need a
You're
so
motion.
excited.
Your half an hour's done.
I need a motion to move to public hearing and to a date certain. So I am recommending the December the second meeting in December, hold on. So if we can have a motion to move to the amendments to the fee schedule, move to public hearing for December 19th at the town offices. That'd be great. And then I'll be done.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
December 19th.
December 19th.
All right, Mountain Shadows final inspection.
I will report on that. So I spoke to Josh, and he is going to have it completed. He's gonna go to the site prior to next Wednesday.
So just for some backup, because Leanne forgets that not everyone knows about it. Mountain Shadows, you know, the town has been holding about $8,000 or so, $6,000. A surety on the subdivision for road improvements, and the engineer has to go out and confirm the as-built that it is done to the specification, so the money can be released to that
How is the road?
in there.
Yeah.
Know after the engineer looks at it. So,
Yep.
Good.
That's on the new section, right?
The new section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right,
Yes.
the Winchester, yeah.
I just have one announcement, and that is we're canceling the December 5th meeting.
Happy
Good, I won't
holidays.
be here anyway,
I'm
so.
not gonna be here either.
That's why.
Yeah, enough of us weren't gonna be here that.
Yeah.
it was gonna be-
Drink.
Yeah.
And it's our work session, so,
Yeah.
and it's already posted on the website and in the
Yeah.
lobby, so we're good.
Let me just make a little pitch for the CIP presentation on the 3rd of December, 6:30 PM. Oh,
No,
let-
you go right
no, you're-
ahead.
you're-
No,
you're-
no.
You're the rep,
No.
so,
We hope that
Uh,
you can all attend.
yeah,
No.
in the past, in the past, planning board has not been enthusiastic participants in that, as an audience at that presentation, and I would just suggest to everybody, if you can show up, be at the townhouse that night, hear and see what CIP presents, you know.
They've been invited in the past, I think.
Yes,
So usually
absolutely.
They're not enthusiasts, they don't show up.
Right, so.
Not, nobody does.
So
Never has.
what, the key piece that CIP provides to the town as it relates directly to the planning board is, because we have a CIP committee, we can levy impact fees on development. If we didn't have a CIP committee, the state wouldn't let us do that, okay? So that comes in, and, you know, they're involved in planning from a different perspective than the planning board, but it's another piece of what goes on, and the presentation normally is a half hour or less. So I would encourage everybody to put on your calendar, 6:30 on the 3rd at the townhouse, and Maureen can tell you more about it. She's our rep
He said it all. It's awesome.
to the CIP,
Mhm.
and, you know, they take capital project input from all the departments, and
So we're gonna look at
various bodies.
expenditures of this year, next year, and the next year, right?
They put together a 10-year schedule of recommendations, and as to how we're gonna make capital expenditures. Those things obviously change as time goes along, but it's, I think it's a useful process on an annual basis for, it's hard to get some constituencies engaged in the longer range thinking part of, you know, when am I gonna need to replace this vehicle or to do this upgrade to this, that, or the other. But it's a good process for all of us to be thinking going forward. And
Who's made those decisions in the past? Like replacing vehicles, police cars? The chief
It's not-
comes to you.
it's not mine.
Well,
Ultimately make a decision.
yeah, the governing body makes the decision as to what goes to town meeting. But the CIP committee, you know, takes project input, makes their recommendations. And, you know, there's a lot of years, the recommendations that CIP brings forward to the Board of Selectmen go directly on the warrant. In years when they don't, a lot of times what happens is the situation changes between late fall and the end of the period for assembling the warrant before town meeting. A couple of years ago, for instance, we had, there was something that, I don't remember what it was, something failed, and we had to schedule fixing it, and I think it was after CIP went through their thing. Emergent issues that come up impact it, but,
Wasn't it a boiler that failed?
what's that?
Wasn't it a boiler that failed?
A boiler?
It might have been a boiler, probably septic, I don't remember what it was.
A library septic.
It
That's
was
what it
library
was,
septic,
yeah.
it was library
Right.
septic, yeah.
Yep. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, hope to see you
I
then.
put it on my calendar already.
good. All right, that's all I have to say.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second, we can.
Good night.
All those in favor? Did you say you were
My daughter,
trucking in there?
yes, in Manhattan,
New
yes,
York?
yes.